Okay, so I'm going to be looking at a game tonight called Dagon. As far as I can tell, this is kind of like an episodic game. You get the first chapter for free, but then you have to buy the follow-up chapters, so I'm just gonna be taking a look at the very first one here. Maybe down the road, if I really like this, I will get the others, but each chapter is, well, 2 of them are 4 and the last one is 5, so you know, altogether it is, you know, it's a decent little chunk of change. But yeah, it is Dagon by H.P. Lovecraft. It has overwhelmingly positive reviews. It came out actually 4 years ago. And another thing, because I wasn't able to get to a lot of things that I wanted to during October, you know, Spooktober, if you will, I've decided to run it into November, or, if you will, Spookvember. Yes, I know, I'm very creative. I also think I just now noticed that the 2025 could have been pushed a little bit further to the right for centering. Oh well. It'll have to do. But yeah, point is there's just a lot of things I want to get to and just have not had the time to do so. So, yeah. I am going to be pushing it into an extra month for horror games because there's just too many games. Seriously, it's like there really is just way too many games. A lot of good ones too. And maybe some not very good ones, depending how you want to think about Tommy Wiseau's Silent Hill there. I do intend to go back to it. I don't know how... That's weird. I don't know how far into the room I'm going to be getting. I might only do 1 or 2 more. I don't know. But yeah, point is, if people can set out their goddamn Christmas decorations in October, which is a thing I've been seeing people do throughout October, especially getting near the end of October, and we're still a full month out from goddamn December, if they can start putting out their Christmas shit and start blaring their not very good music, then goddamn it, I can pretend it is still spook season for an extra month. Anyway, point is, Dagon is a faithful interactive adaptation of H.P. Lovecraft's work, focused on story and atmosphere. You will not find difficult choices, action sequences, or inventory management here, and movement is limited to progressing through locations along with the plot.
I am writing this
So it's very railroaded?
strain, since by tonight I shall be no more.
I'm sorry. I need to immediately increase the sensitivity. That's actually kind of... Ooh, autoplay. I can just listen to my audiobook. Oh, thank you, yes. Oh. During the game, you will encounter interactive elements. Some of them will allow you to continue your journey. Others will reveal interesting facts about the original short story. Ah. God damn it. Its historical background and the author. Also, another thing I forgot to... yeah, my internet is now... well, I mean, I guess knock on wood, hey. I did a speed test earlier. I had a grand total of 70 down and 2 megabytes up. Now the thing is I definitely didn't even have that much download speed because I was losing packets left and right. I'm now at 510 to 12-ish. It's a little intermittent there, but it seems to be better. You know, again, knock on wood. But again, this has been going on for the past like week, so I'm not. I don't believe this is going to last at all. Others reveal interesting facts about the original short story, its historical background, and the author. Oh, H.P. Lovecraft. Interesting facts about the author. Just ignore all the racism and the weird shit involved with him, his cat, and his mother. You know, if you remove all the weird stuff, you don't really have much of a story left about the man. Some of the trivia is hidden. In order to find these secrets, focus your eyes and look for the elder sign. The sign of the yellow-robed king. Focus your eyes. Your special eyes. Oh,
Penniless, and at the end of my supply of the drug which alone makes life endurable, I can bear the torture no longer, and shall cast myself from this garret window into the squalid street below. Do not think from my slavery to morphine that I am a weakling or a degenerate. When you have read these hastily scrawled pages, you may guess, though never fully realize, why it is that I must have forgetfulness or death.
Okay, apparently I got an achievement. Morphine entered into use into the 19th century and was routinely administered to treat severe pain during the American Civil War and World War I. It was also sold without restrictions until 1914. Morphine became more popular after the invention of the hypodermic syringe around 1854. Friedrich Serturner, who first isolated the substance, originally named it morphium, after Morpheus, the Greek god associated with dreams. At the time when Dagon was published, morphine abuse, known as soldier's disease, already posed a big problem in the United States. You can read the discovered trivia immediately or go back to them later in the main menu. Turn off displaying trivia if you find that feature distracts you from the story. So it's kind of... it's very hard not to immediately just compare this to Amnesia: The Dark Descent, really. You got the narration, you got the little bits of notes and whatnot.
It was in one of the most open and least
oh my god, my
parts of
controller.
the broad Pacific that the packet of which I was supercargo fell a victim to the German sea raider. The Great War was then at its very beginning, and the ocean forces of the Hun had not completely sunk to their later degradation, so that our vessel was made a legitimate prize, whilst we of her crew were treated with all the fairness and consideration due us as naval prisoners.
The Huns were Central Asian nomads who established a dominion in Europe and invaded the Roman Empire in the 5th century AD. They were known as brutal, deadly warriors and masters of quick raids who also developed powerful composite bows, lassos, and early siege weapons. During World War I, the British used the word Hun as a synonym for Germans in order to emphasize their brutality. However, the term originated when the German Emperor Wilhelm II gave a speech to his troops on the 27th of July 1900, before they embarked to China. Should you encounter the enemy, he will be defeated. No quarter will be given. Prisoners will not be taken. Whoever falls into your hands is forfeited. Just as 1,000 years ago, the Huns under their king Attila made a name for themselves, one that even today makes them seem mighty in history and legend. May the name German be affirmed by you in such a way in China that no Chinese will ever again to look cross-eyed at a German. The refusal to take prisoners was a clear breach of the laws and customs of war adopted during the First Hague Convention of 1899. Hague? I always forget to pronounce that thing. I think it's the Hague.
So liberal, indeed, was the discipline of our captors, that 5 days after we were taken, I managed to escape alone in a small boat with water and provisions for a good length of time.
It seems kind of lax of them.
When I finally found myself adrift and free, I had but little idea of my surroundings. Never a competent navigator, I could only guess vaguely by the sun and stars that I was somewhat south of the equator. Of the longitude, I knew nothing, and no island or coastline was in sight.
Bayazora, Bayazora, Bayazora. Game definitely has a very certain, like, aesthetic flair to it, unlike in here.
The weather kept fair, and for uncounted days I drifted aimlessly beneath the scorching sun, waiting either for some passing ship or to be cast on the shores of some habitable land. But neither ship nor land appeared, and I began to despair in my solitude upon the heaving vastness of unbroken blue.
Well
The
said.
change happened whilst I slept. Its details I shall never know, for my slumber, though troubled and dream-infested, was continuous.
Oh. Well, that's normal and nice.
When at last I awoke, it was to discover myself half sucked into a slimy expanse of hellish black mire, which extended about me in monotonous undulations as far as I could see, and in which my boat lay grounded some distance away. Though one might well imagine that my first sensation would be of wonder at so prodigious and unexpected a transformation of scenery, I was in reality more horrified than astonished, for there was in the air and in the rotting soil a sinister quality which chilled me to the very core. The region was putrid with the carcasses of decaying fish and of other less describable things which I saw protruding from the nasty mud of the unending plain. Perhaps I should not hope to convey in mere words the unutterable hideousness that can dwell in absolute silence and barren immensity. There was nothing within hearing and nothing in sight save a vast reach of black slime. Yet the very completeness of the stillness and the homogeneity of the landscape oppressed me with a nauseating fear. The sun was blazing down from a sky which seemed to me almost black in its cloudless cruelty, as though reflecting the inky marsh beneath my feet.
It is a little hard to find, like, bits where I can maybe interject a little bit. Honestly, this looks like something you might see in, like, No Man's Sky, though. You know, like, this weird, like, beetle thing kind of, like, juxtaposed into the ground at a weird angle. Maybe not juxtaposed, but perpendicular? I don't know.
I realized that only one theory could explain my position. Through some unprecedented volcanic upheaval, a portion of the ocean floor must have been thrown to the surface, exposing regions for which innumerable millions of years had lain hidden under unfathomable watery depths. So great was the extent of the new land which had risen beneath me that I could not detect the faintest noise of the surging ocean, straining my ears as I might, nor were there any seafowl to prey upon the dead things. For several hours I sat thinking or brooding in the boat, which lay upon its side and afforded a slight shade as the sun moved across the heavens. As the day progressed, the ground lost some of its stickiness and seemed likely to dry sufficiently for traveling purposes in a short time. That night I slept but little, and the next day I made for myself a pack containing food and water, preparatory to an overland journey in search of the vanished sea and possible rescue. the third morning, I found the soil dry enough to walk upon with ease. The odor of the fish was maddening, but I was too much concerned with graver things to mind so slight an evil, and set out boldly for an unknown goal.
Kind of more of like a point and click.
All day I forged steadily westward, guided by a faraway hummock which rose higher than any other elevation on the rolling desert.
What the hell is that thing? Like, these things look like they're the aliens from, you know, that one movie there. I'm doing my part. Oh, hey, a whale.
That night, I encamped, and on the following day still travelled toward the hummock, though that object seemed scarcely nearer than when I had first espied it.
Must be pretty big, then. Or he's going really slow. I mean, he's probably sinking down like half an inch or something every time he takes a step.
I attained the base of the mound, which turned out to be much higher than it had appeared from a distance. An intervening valley setting it out in sharper relief from the general surface. Too weary to ascend, I slept in the shadow of the hill. I know not why my dreams were so wild that night, but ere the waning and fantastically gibbous moon had risen far above the eastern plain, I was awake in a cold perspiration, determined to sleep no more. Such visions as I had experienced were too much for me to endure again, and in the glow of the moon I saw how unwise I had been to travel by day. Without the glare of the parching sun, my journey would have cost me less energy. Indeed, I now felt quite able to perform the ascent which had deterred me at sunset. Picking up my pack, I started for the crest of the eminence.
I thought I saw something up there, but it was just some gunk on my screen.
The monotony of the rolling plain was a source of vague horror to me, but I think my horror was greater when I gained the summit of the mound and looked down the other side into an immeasurable pit or canyon, whose black recesses the moon had not yet soared high enough to illumine. I felt myself on the edge of the world, peering over the rim into a fathomless chaos of eternal night. Through my terror ran curious reminiscences of Paradise Lost and of Satan's hideous climb through the unfashioned realms of darkness. As the moon climbed higher in the sky, I began to see that the slopes of the valley were not quite so perpendicular as I had imagined. Ledges and outcroppings of rock afforded fairly easy footholds for a descent, whilst after a drop of only a few hundred feet, the declivity became very gradual.
Or you could just not do that.
Urged on by an impulse which I cannot definitely analyze, I scrambled with difficulty down the rocks and stood on the gentler slope beneath, gazing into the Stygian deeps, where no light had yet penetrated. All at once, my attention was captured by a vast and singular object on the opposite slope, which rose steeply about 100 yards ahead of me, an object that gleamed whitely in the newly bestowed rays of the ascending moon.
Say monolith. The monolith. Idiotioda Stalker.
A gigantic piece of stone, I soon assured myself, but I was conscious of a distinct impression that its contour and position were not altogether the work of nature. A closer scrutiny filled me with sensations I cannot express. For despite its enormous magnitude, and its position in an abyss which had yawned at the bottom of the sea since the world was young, I perceived beyond a doubt that the strange object was a well-shaped monolith, whose massive bulk had known the workmanship and perhaps the worship of living and thinking creatures. Dazed and frightened, yet not without a certain thrill of the scientist's or archaeologist's delight, I examined my surroundings more closely.
So it's basically just the monolith from Kubrick's.
The moon, now near the zenith, shone weirdly and vividly above the towering steeps that hemmed in the chasm, and revealed the fact that a far-flung body of water flowed at the bottom, winding out of sight in both directions and almost lapping my feet as I stood on the slope. Across the chasm, the wavelets washed the base of the Cyclopean monolith, on whose surface I could now trace both inscriptions and crude sculptures. The writing was in a system of hieroglyphics unknown to me and unlike anything I'd ever seen in books, consisting for the most part of conventionalized aquatic symbols such as fishes, eels, octopi, crustaceans, mollusks, whales, and the like. Several characters obviously represented marine things which are unknown to the modern world, but whose decomposing forms I had observed on the ocean-risen plain. It was the pictorial carving, however, that did most to hold me spellbound.
Been a while since I've actually seen some lore now. Dagon contains many themes and storytelling methods that Lovecraft developed in his later works, such as telling the story through carvings at the Mountains of Madness, the Nameless City. Journals and characters' notes, the Shadow Out of Time, the Haunter of the Dark, Islands emerging from the ocean, the Call of Cthulhu, or fictional beings and deities based on real events and mythologies, Migo, and the Whisper of Darkness. It's also considered the origin of the popular Cthulhu mythos. Some of Lovecraft's other stories also conclude in a manner similar to Dagon, but let's skip the details in order not to spoil the ending.
Plainly visible across the intervening water, on account of their enormous size, were an array of bas-reliefs whose subjects would have excited the envy of a Doré. I think that these things were supposed to depict men, at least a certain sort of men, though the creatures were shown disporting like fishes in the waters of some marine grotto, or paying homage at some monolithic shrine which appeared to be under the waves as well. Of their faces and forms I dare not speak in detail, for the mere remembrance makes me grow faint, grotesque beyond the imagination of a Poe or a Bulwer. They were damnably human in general outline, despite webbed hands and feet, shockingly wide and flabby lips, glassy, bulging eyes, and other features less pleasant to recall. Curiously enough, they seem to have been chiseled badly out of proportion with their scenic background, for one of the creatures was shown in the act of killing a whale, represented as but little larger than himself. I remarked, as I say, their grotesqueness and strange size, but in a moment decided that they were merely the imaginary gods of some primitive fishing or seafaring tribe. Some tribe whose last descendant had perished eras before the first ancestor of the Piltdown or Neanderthal man was born. Awestruck at this unexpected glimpse into a past beyond the conception of the most daring anthropologist, I stood musing whilst the moon cast queer reflections on the silent channel before me. Then, suddenly, I saw it. With only a slight churning to mark its rise to the surface, the thing slid into view above the dark waters. Vast, polyphemus-like and loathsome, it darted like a stupendous monster of nightmares to the monolith, about which it flung its gigantic scaly arms, the while it bowed its hideous head and gave vent to certain measured sounds. I think I went mad then. Of my frantic ascent of the slope and cliff, and of my delirious journey back to the stranded boat, I remember little.
I mean, it took him like 3 days to get to this damn thing. It's gonna take him ages to get back, isn't it?
I believe I sang a great deal and laughed oddly when I was unable to sing.
Okay. Well, have a good one there, Mr. Whale.
I have indistinct recollections of a great storm sometime after I reached the boat. At any rate, I know that I heard pearls of thunder and other tones which nature utters only in her wildest moods. When I came out of the shadows, I was in a San Francisco hospital, brought thither by the captain of the American ship which had picked up my boat in mid-ocean. In my delirium, I had said much, but found that my words had been given scant attention. Of any land upheaval in the Pacific, my rescuers knew nothing, nor did I deem it necessary to insist upon a thing which I knew they could not believe.
So, guess the Hulk just wanted his monolith, huh? Lovecraft was a prominent figure in the world of amateur journalism. In 1915, he started publishing his own journal called The Conservative, which included political and social commentary, poetry, short stories, and literary criticism written by him and other authors. Howard was a skilled wordsmith, but he also took criticisms to heart, which resulted in his decision to step away from writing poetry and concentrate on weird fiction again for the first time since his teenage years. Dagon, published in 1919, is one of the short stories written during that period. In this example excerpt from The Conservative, the master of horror fiction explains his attitude towards warfare and the idea of world peace. Why, any sane human being can believe in the possibility of universal peace is more than the conservative can fathom. Should the entire civilized world agree simultaneously to disarm, one or more nations would undoubtedly retain secret armaments and, at the proper time, take advantage of their more altruistic and less astute contemporaries in a wild career of conquest against unarmed victims. No country is, or ever can be, above warfare until the basic impulses of the human animal shall have miraculously changed. Yes, you can already see how much of an optimist that Lovecraft was.
Once I sought out a celebrated ethnologist and amused him with peculiar questions regarding the ancient Philistine legend of Dagon, the fish god.
Why is that the advancement? I thought this would have been. Dagon, or Dagon, was the main deity of the Philistines, worshipped throughout the Middle East as the ancient god of fertility and crops. In Hebrew, the word Dagon was a common noun for grain. The rulers of Akkad, Mesopotamia, chose him as the patron saint of the war conquests. He also appeared as the judge of the dead in an Assyrian poem and an underworld prison warder in one of the Babylonian texts. He is often mistakenly taken for a fish god due to the wrong interpretation of his name, as in Hebrew the word dag means fish. In H.P. Lovecraft's works, Dagon is an underwater deity ruling over the deep ones, a humanoid race with fish traits that resides in the oceans. He is worshipped by a secret cult called the Esoteric Order of Dagon. It's, not a very creative name for the cult, is it?
But soon perceiving that he
We
was
are the knights at
conventional, I did not press my inquiries.
Oh, this is like the first place I can actually look in a 360. That's nice. August Derleth and the Cthulhu Mythos. August Derleth was an American writer and anthologist. He also befriended Lovecraft and published many of his works through his company, Arkham House. Although he greatly contributed to the popularization of the author's works after his death, he is surrounded by numerous controversies. One of his most questionable decisions involved introducing the good versus evil doctrine. Derleth was a devout Catholic to the Cthulhu mythos, which contrasted with Lovecraft's view of the world and his approach to cosmic horror. As a result, the author's works are often misunderstood and misrepresented in today's culture. It's also worth noting that Lovecraft was never really interested in creating a mythology, and the term Cthulhu mythos was coined by Derleth after the author left the mortal plane. Are we focusing more on the story or like Lovecraft's history? I'm okay with either. It's just like you're getting bits of both, really. Okay. What? Why'd I walk over here then? I cannot actually interact with anything here. Huh? Huh. I don't know.
It is at night, especially when the moon is gibbous and waning, that I see the thing. I tried morphine, but the drug has given only transient surcease, and has drawn me into its clutches as a hopeless slave. So now, I am to end it all, having written a full account for the information or the contemptuous amusement of my fellow men.
It seems like a little bit of a weird conclusion there. Like, you know, oh hey, you know, y'all are gonna find this amusing, so, enjoy, I guess, Lamau. Bye. Lovecraft hated tobacco. Even though he used to smoke when he was 12 in order to look and feel like an adult. In his correspondence with friend Reinhard Kleiner, he claims that he quit as soon as he started wearing long pants. He also had a very strong opinion about alcohol, as evidenced by his letter to Zelia Brown, dated the 13th of February 1928. As for the matter of drinking, I have never tasted intoxicating liquor, and never intend to. Having a strong aesthetic disgust at anything which blunts or coarsens the delicate natural equipoise, of the evolved human intellect and imagination. Drinking excited my personal repugnance, hence I don't drink. Let the herd do what they will. I am rather in favor of prohibition. The prohibition of any one antisocial force as well as of any other.
Often, I ask myself if it could not all have been a pure phantasm, a mere freak of fever, as I lay sun-stricken and raving in the open boat, after my escape from the German man-of-war. This I ask myself, but ever does there come before me a hideously vivid vision in reply. I cannot think of the deep sea without shuddering at the nameless things that may at this very moment be crawling and floundering on its slimy bed, worshipping their ancient stone idols and carving their own detestable likenesses on submarine obelisks of water-soaked granite. I dream of a day when they may rise above the billows to drag down into their reeking talons the remnants of puny, war-exhausted mankind. Of a day when the land shall sink and the dark ocean shall ascend amidst universal pandemonium. end is near. I hear a noise at the door, as of some immense slippery body lumbering against it. It shall not find me. God, that hand! The window! The window!
Leave feedback. So, I've never actually read any of H.P. Lovecraft's anything. Maybe I showed one of these days. Oh.
And scary stories have been accompanying men for centuries. They have many faces and forms, but what is their purpose? Why do we enjoy being afraid so much? During our therapy, I'll try to
I don't think that's quite the same thing as what we just experienced. Wow, how many did I miss? Holy shit. I thought there was just a lack of them. No, I was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have, I didn't even get half of them. Wow, those have nothing in comparison. What the hell? Are these just even shorter? Oops. So, that was... I actually kind of enjoyed that. Just, man, that was actually really short, wasn't it? Dagon was Martin Owen. Warm voice? That's a... yeah, okay. Sure, I guess. How short is Dagon as a story? Because that was actually really quite short. That was ever so slightly more than, well, half an hour, really. Trivia? Oh, right, yeah. So that's Dagon, at least for the, you know, vanilla aspect of it without the DLC. I am missing 2 of the achievements, and those are quite literally just finding all the trivia pieces. 5% of all people have found all the trivia. Alright, you know what? Let's see. I'm sorry? You know why? I forgot that focusing your eyes was a thing. I completely forgot that it was a feature that you could apparently, like, zoom your eyes telescopically on stuff. So me just looking around, I was just expecting to see the little interactives. That's why I didn't find them. I forgot that was even a feature.
I am right.
Yeah, see, you can, like, zoom in. Yeah, see, right there, there's another one. Lovecraft's letters. As to letters, my case is peculiar. I write such things exactly, as easily and as rapidly as I would utter the same topics in conversation. Indeed, epistolary. Epistolary? Oh god, I haven't seen, read, or heard, or used that word in fucking over a decade. Epistolary. Epistolary expression is with me largely replacing conversation, as my condition of nervous prostration becomes more and more acute. I can't bear to talk much now, and am becoming as silent as the spectator himself. My loquacity extends itself on paper. Throughout his life, Lovecraft penned around 100,000 letters to his friends and fans, out of which about 10% survive to this day, but his tendency to end this correspondence was a relatively late growth. In youth, I scarcely did any letter writing. Thanking anyone for the present was so much of an ordeal that I would rather have written a 250-line pastoral or a 20-page treatise on the rings of Saturn. Lovecraft would often skip meals to afford postage. Collections of his correspondence have been published in various books, and selected letters can be found online. Some readers consider them his most important legacy.
Penniless. Do not think from my slavery to morphine that I am a weakling or a degenerate. When you have read...
I do think it's kind of a small shame and small annoyance in the fact that you kind of have to zoom your camera in to actually get the, I guess, effectively the full experience. But yeah, no, it's, I do actually enjoy this, but it's very short, and that makes me really worried about the DLCs, you know? It's just one of those things, especially being on Steam. It's like, yeah, I could get the DLCs. I would probably actually really enjoy it. But at the same time, you know, am I getting like 10, 20 minutes out of it? I don't like... I don't like having to, or well, not even having to, but I don't like bringing up like cost to time on a thing. Just, you know, I don't have endless money. I'm gonna keep an eye out and see if this stuff ever goes on sale. So, apparently this is actually going to... Apparently the money is actually going to a charity. Wait, what? Okay, so, hold on. So they even have a couple different DLCs here. This is weird. Okay, so the Eldritch Box DLC contains an ebook version of Dagon in Mobi EPUB PDF, as well as different languages. Ebook version of Fishhead by Irvin S. Cobb, which is apparently one of the inspirations behind Dagon. So it's effectively something that actually inspired Lovecraft, I guess, then. Audiobook version of Dagon, including sounds from the game. Official wallpapers, but is there... Is this just like a really well done advertisement for their ebook? Their audiobook? I'm confused. Cthulhu's Bedtime Stories. You have Eldritch Box DLC, the Little Glass Bottle DLC, and the Railway Horror DLC. So Okay, Eldritch Box DLC is going to charity, I think, and has a couple, is the stuff that has that stuff. Okay, so then you have Little Glass Bottle, which is the... Little Glass Bottle and Railway Horror are the actual, like, story bits for the game that give you the visuals and the narration. Okay. So it's technically 2 DLCs then. Third one is like a weird charity one. Okay. So let's see. The Railway Horror is having a tag of new on it and came out in 2023 of October 8th. So it came out during Spooky Month. But it is, in fact, not new, unless we want to consider something that is 2 years old new. But yeah, there you go. So I will have to keep an eye out for any future sales, because I do actually like that. Or I did enjoy this, just, you know, it was all of 30 minutes. So, yeah, it's like, if it's like a single dollar, I don't feel too bad on it. Just, I don't know. I don't know, just strapped for cash. You know, whatever reasoning you want to use there. But that'll be it for now for Dagon. Hopefully those DLCs do actually go on sale here soon, and I can just pick them up and, you know, and enjoy a little bit of story time. But that'll be it for now. Have a good one, folks. Until next time. And avoid any weird monoliths or weird fishy Hulk monsters.